Hey there, historians! Welcome to our look at westward expansion, an important chapter in U.S. history. English settlement of the United States began with land-hungry settlers looking for wealth in the natural resources of North America. That desire to stake a claim on a plot of land and build a personal empire stuck with Americans for centuries. In 1750, almost all Englishmen lived east of the Appalachian Mountains. A century later, the United States controlled the heart of the continent from sea to shining sea. Today, we'll learn about early migration west into the frontier and the early government's role in the process. Our learning objectives are to describe 3 barriers to early westward expansion, summarize policies and events promoting westward expansion, and explain how government policies for the West shaped the future of the Union. You learned previously that many Americans wanted to move west. Ohio fever had been strong since the 1750s at the outbreak of the French and Indian War. Americans knew there would be cheap land that they could claim for themselves. It could be cultivated into a farm, and there might be other resources out there like lumber, beaver pelts, and who knows what else. But there had always been barriers to moving west. Firstly, the Appalachian Mountains were a physical barrier, standing at 6,000 feet high and densely forested. This made them tough to cross unless you were on foot or horseback, and it was almost impossible to do with a wagon. Until roads were forged, you could forget about bringing much stuff with you. Secondly, Englishmen east of the mountains had forced indigenous tribes to move west of the mountains. This created a hostile environment for Americans that hoped to take the journey. Native people like Pontiac grew less trusting and more aggressive toward white settlers. Lastly, very few Americans lived out west in the 1790s, so settlers would be isolated and need skills to be self-sufficient. Some questions they might have asked were, will I be able to feed my family without being able to travel to a market to buy what I couldn't produce on my own? Will there be schools for my children? Doctors for people who get sick or injured? What about communicating with our loved ones back east? Traveling from east to west was a nice dream, but it was much easier said than done. Let's see what changed. In 1775, mountain man Daniel Boone was hired to cut a path through the mountains. His work was helpful to break down the travel barrier. The wilderness road made travel easier, and stories published about him made him like a celebrity. Novels describing a town he founded as a place 500 miles away from anywhere promoted westward migration. The stories reframed isolation as freedom, making it seem attractive rather than scary. By 1776, Kentucky became a western county of Virginia, and Tennessee became a western county of North Carolina. Check the PDF for more information about Daniel Boone's influence. It wasn't just Daniel Boone promoting westward expansion. In 1785, the Confederation Congress passed the Land Ordinance. Now, western lands would be surveyed and divided into townships. Within those townships, plots of land would be sold to citizens. Some land in each town would be reserved for government buildings like schools and post offices. The plan promoted westward movement because the government ensured access to cheap land, school, and the mail. What more could you need? The government also made policies that shaped the future of the nation. Two important laws passed by the Confederation Congress were the Northwest Ordinance and Southwest Ordinance. These laws created a procedure for admitting Western regions into the Union as new states, which was exciting for people moving west. Admitting them as new states was more fair. Each new state would bring in 2 new senators and at least 1 U.S. representative to Congress instead of increasing the power of pre-existing states. And it ensured that Western settlers would be represented in Congress by someone who actually lived out west, who understood their interests. Kentucky entered the Union as the first state west of the Appalachian Mountains in 1792, soon followed by Tennessee in 1796. Adding new states began shaping the future of Congress, but it also had an impact on the development of slavery. The Northwest Ordinance made slavery illegal in all lands north of the Ohio River. When the Southwest Ordinance was passed later, all rules about applying for statehood were the same, but Congress left out the part about slavery. They intentionally made 2 separate laws instead of one policy for all states. This compromise prevented the Union from breaking apart over the issue of slavery, something we'll revisit later. In effect, the Southwest Ordinance allowed slavery to spread into new states. We'll continue to focus on the expansion of slavery and its effects on politics throughout the rest of the course as new states are added to the Union. As we begin our journey into the frontier, there are many tales of pioneers like Daniel Boone trekking into the unknown, blazing a trail, and breaking down barriers to westward expansion. As you learn more about these stories, it is always important to think about how the settlement of new lands affected lots of different stakeholders, including indigenous people who already lived in the West, settlers entering the region, and other Americans back east. Government policies both promoted westward expansion and shaped the future of Congress and slavery. As we continue our study of westward expansion, look for ways in which the U.S. government acquired more land from other nations, including our familiar friends and foes, France, Spain, and Great Britain. Until then, historians, remember to always be clever.
Hey, hey.